Welcome back, everyone. I am Patricia Butler, and I am the CEO and co-founder of ArtistWorks. Welcome to our live dispatch from home. I think this is like our 23rd or 24th event, and we're really happy to have everyone here. And in case you don't know who ArtistWorks is, we are an online music instruction company, and we work with 37 world-renowned musicians. And we are very fortunate today to be with two of them. And these are multi-instrument, multi-genre master musicians. I'm really happy to know them both well. We are joined by Dr. Martin Taylor, MBE. We're going to go into all of that a little bit later. And he, of course, is a solo guitarist, solo jazz guitarist, fingerstyle, and Mike Marshall, who is another multi-instrumentalist as well as multi-genre player. And these guys have a wonderful history together of collaborations and playing and recording together way back in the day. So we're going to spend a little bit of time reminiscing today, but of course, we're going to also hear them play. We want to make sure that you ask all the questions that you would like to ask. Just put them over in the comment or the chat section, and we'll do our very best to get to all of them. So we start every one of these live stream events with a musical tribute to folks that are on the front lines and people that are just at home or want to hear a little bit of music in their life. We like to be the musical oasis in an otherwise difficult moment or just a busy day. And so today, Martin Taylor is going to start us off with Two for the Road. So here is Martin Taylor. That was
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank
Really
you.
nice.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Oh, Martin, that was wonderful. Thank you for starting the event with that great piece, Two for the Road. And Mike Marshall, thank you so much for joining us
Great to
today.
be here. I can't think of a nicer place to be with one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
Wow.
And you,
Mike, you're my hero, my mandolin hero. My God.
come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
You
No,
guys
that's
have known
great.
each other a long time, haven't you? How long have you known each other?
1980,
That's when
1979.
79, I think we did our first tour. My first real gig, I'd have to say.
Oh, is that right?
Really?
Well,
With
I joined
Martin?
David Grisman in 79. Around New Year's Eve was a gig with the quintet, but then in March or April, we hooked up with the Stefan Grappelli quartet and toured together.
Yeah, that was. I have very fond memories, particularly of. We always used to end our U.S. tours in California,
Oh,
and Stefan always used to say, "Oh, great, we're going to see, we're going to see David and the boys."
David and the boys, the naughty boys.
Yeah, and we used to play the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco,
That's right.
and we used to play what's now called the Mountain Winery.
Paul Masson Winery.
Paul Masson Winery.
Yeah, it's different. It's I don't know what it's called now, but it is different.
Right.
Yeah, very, very happy days for me, and I was very excited. I mean, I wasn't. I'd already been playing for quite a long time professionally by then. Let's say I was about 24, I guess, but I started as a child.
right.
Been on the road since I was a child. But yeah, it was the first. I think it was the first US tour I did with Stefan.
Okay.
And then, of course, then we all became buddies and all worked together. And I worked a lot with David Grisman as well, made a few records.
Yeah.
Didn't see so much of you, unfortunately. We just bump into each other once in a while. Italy, I think Sicily was the last time I met you.
Well, that's right. You've done these workshops, and we did one of those with Peppino D'Agostino back to back. Yeah. You had your guitar workshop.
Yeah.
Then we did our mandolin thing down there.
But no,
those tours with Stefan Grappelli, that was mind blowing for me. You know, just to see him and then you playing with him and that music and the spirit of the time, you know, just sort of, and to be, I mean, I was probably 21 and I toured around with my little teenage bluegrass band as a teenager, but this was like real showbiz stuff. And
yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience for us as young musicians, getting to work somebody who was he was a living legend. I mean, he was such an important part of jazz history, of certainly European jazz history, along with Stefan and Django Reinhardt. And there we were.
Mean, this was a living compendium of the 20th century of music, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
He's lived it all, you know.
Yeah, one thing I would like to share with you, actually, having spent so much time with Stefan, was I kind of, you know, I got this from working with him. And the things he used to tell me, you know, when we were just traveling around. And I think what you probably don't realize, Mike, is that you and David Grisman, Daryl Anger, Mark O'Connor, all you guys really inspired him.
Really?
And, yeah,
that's unbelievable. Because it was such an intense experience to be on stage with him. I mean, he was probably 75 at that point.
Yeah.
We were all feisty 20-year-old kids, raring to go with all this energy and playing every note we could. And he would just bury us every night. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The skill level and the depth of feeling in what he played and the knowledge. And how he
Yeah,
could
because he could absolutely tear you apart with not by playing fast
No,
things
no,
or playing things,
no.
but just by the absolute, the depth and musicality
Exactly.
of what he played. I might play something that that was really good. And then Stefan
Yeah,
would play
no.
something, made me look like a Flintstone,
Right.
a caveman, a cave
No,
dweller.
I know that we did have that energy that behind him that was probably
He
hot.
loved that.
He loved that.
That's what he loved. He loved to work with young musicians, and that's what we were at that time. Just in
Right.
our 20s and
Completely gung
early
ho.
20s. And he just loved the energy of being around young musicians. I mean, you had to be able to play, of course.
Yeah.
But that was something that he thrived on. And it used to be very interesting because sometimes I'd be with him when he was being interviewed by journalists, and they would immediately ask him about Django, and he used to be a little dismissive at first. And a bit of a reputation that they thought, well, don't talk about Django to him because there's some kind of jealousy or rivalry or something. It wasn't that at all. Stefan said to me one day, he says, yeah, it was great. He said, but I want to talk about what I'm doing now. I want to talk about playing with you. I want to talk about playing with Mike and Grisman and all the things that I'm doing now, because he had such a young spirit. He was a young person.
That was it. He lived every day like it was alive and well at 75, just rocking it.
I know. I mean, I would see him during the course of the day. Believe me, when we used to sort of leave a hotel in the morning, he wasn't skipping about like he did on the stage. But he did look his age, and he was, oh, I am so tired. I want to go out now. And he'd have a little bit of a moan and everything. And then, But then he'd sit there and he'd say, oh, we play with Grisman tonight. Oh, that's great. And he would get excited. You could see him coming to life. And
when he got that fiddle and is up there, then it would just blossom, right? No matter how long a day it was.
Something else. And I know it's a cliche about him, but he did actually get better and better and better.
He sure did. His harmonic thing opened up very deeply. I mean, he always had the fire, but it would shock me the depth of his harmonic knowledge and how he would these crazy substitutions through chord changes night after night was remarkable.
The way his playing flowed was quite incredible, and I've seen if you go on YouTube, that you can see some of those videos of us playing.
Oh yeah, and
you can see all of us flying by the seat of our pants.
Oh man,
and Stefan is just like nothing's happening. Like
what's wrong, boys?
There's one on YouTube. I think it was in Toronto, and somebody put this up, and they just called it Faster. Because what it was, I remember that night very well, because usually Stefan would allocate you so many choruses to improvise on, and it didn't vary. But occasionally he would be quite naughty. If he was enjoying what you were playing, he might get you to play another chorus and another one. Or sometimes if he thought you were struggling a little bit, and either I'll get him,
he might give you some more.
Do another one.
Oh God,
a bit more. But that particular night, I remember playing. I was playing okay, and then I can remember that night very well. He just went and sat down.
God!
And
you were left out there to dry.
And I was starting to run out of ideas, and I watch it, and
that's great.
It's quite funny how there's an incredible energy to it, and I think he knew that. He thought, okay, I'll give him, I'll give him this. I'll see what happens. See what he can do with this. And I just played and I played, and I just remember being so relieved when it was all finished.
I'll have to tell you one harrowing experience for me. So you remember the tour we did of England? We had both bands in a big old tour bus, and we went little town to town, all the way down around the south west corner and up back around Bristol, Derby, Croydon, Panks. I don't know, all those little towns. And then finally, you guys stayed in England, and we went over to Brussels with just Stefan and the Grisman Quartet.
Yeah, I remember.
And after probably 10 shows of having to listen to you play guitar with him. All of a sudden, I was the guitar player for the gig in Brussels.
Right.
And of course, with Stefan, no rehearsal, just show up at the sound check and make a set list and go. And I got to tell you, that was one mind-blowing evening. And I looked down in the front row. Who's in the front row? Toot Steelman. Not only the greatest harmonica player in the world, but quite an amazing guitarist.
Yes.
So that was
alive. He's still alive.
that was
isn't he?
my.
Is Toot still alive?
It's Toot's still with us.
I think he is.
I believe he is.
I
yes.
hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, we made one album together with Toots.
You did?
Stefan and I, yeah.
But
it was,
man, after hearing night after night of the beautiful guitar playing you did, and there's me with this Martin guitar with heavy strings, coming from a bluegrass background, playing all these swing tunes. It was educational to say the least. Trial by fire.
Well, I had a little bit of an advantage because I grew up with that music, and that was one of the things that Stefan, when I first met, well, actually, I met Stefan a few years before I worked with him. I think I was only 19 when I first met him, and I was 22, 23 when I started to work with him.
Right.
And I can remember doing turning up for this gig in France and being backstage, and he starts playing, and I'm playing, and he says, "Oh, do you know that tune?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I know that one." And of course, I grew up with the music of Django and Stefan,
Sure.
and my dad was a jazz musician, so Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, I knew the jazz. I knew all the old jazz standards. And if even if I thought, oh yeah, that sounds familiar, I couldn't remember the name of it, and that's what he was really quite taken with. And I think that's
sure.
how I got the job. At least I think I got the job.
Now, what was the deal? Was Diz Disley in the group with you at the same time, or was that
not at the beginning?
Before,
at the very beginning, it was the Diz Disley trio, and then Diz left very briefly, and I was asked to take his place. For half a dozen concerts in France and Belgium, and I did those, and I thought, okay, well that's kind of it. I can tell my grandchildren I work with Stefan Grappelli. Yeah. And then at the end of the tour, he said, "Oh, we've got a tour in America, and you're going to meet this guy, David Grisman, and his band. It's fantastic." That's when he first started. He kept going on about this. He said, "Would you like to come on this tour to the States?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to."
Cool.
So I did that. Then at the end of that US tour, he said, "I've got a tour in the UK. Would you like to do that?" I said, "Yeah." So I did that. And this went on for 11 years. And to this day, I still don't know whether I was in the band or not.
Yeah.
That's just how it used to kind of be.
Fantastic.
And then Diz came back very briefly. He came back for about a year and a half, I think. And then Mark Fosse came in, French guitarist, left-handed guitarist. Right. And we played together. Then Mark and I kind of used to share the gig.
I see.
We both had other things that we were doing, so we would. Sure. It then became a one guitar gig, which is also very interesting. Had another dynamic. Also, Stefan's playing became more and more kind of. Well, it was always sophisticated, really. There's another element to his playing. It became lighter, so he didn't want so much of the kind of chunky rhythm.
Driving, which was perfect for you with the sustain of your electric guitar and
I played
less of the pump.
I never I did that once, and he turned around to me and said, "Don't do that." I think it was the only time he ever told me not. It was the only time he ever gave me instructions. Don't, I don't like that. Don't like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a great learning experience, like a once in a lifetime experience. And I'm glad that you guys share that.
Yes,
Mike, actually, I mean, how did you get to work with David Grisman?
Story. Coming from that bluegrass side of things as a teenager in Florida, I mean, I was always interested in the latest stuff that people were experimenting with. And of course, David and Tony Rice and Sam Bush, there was this whole cadre of young guys that were kind of busting the stuff loose. But the first record that David made with his quintet was just so groundbreaking for a whole generation of us. I think it came out in 78 or 77. And I just learned every note of it, And I had met Tony at some festivals when he was with a bluegrass band before that with J.D. Crowe. So Tony told him about, this young kid in Florida is pretty good. So I just went out there hoping to meet those guys. And he said, hey, if you're ever out this way, let's get together and play. So I just showed up at his house and played all those tunes.
That was a good strategy.
And the next week, he was heading to L.A. to do the soundtrack to King of the Gypsies with Stefan Grappelli. And he said, hey, you want to come along and play some rhythm mandolin parts?
Yeah, that was when I first met Stefan. He'd just come back from the States where he'd filmed the King of the Gypsies.
Sure.
So we didn't quite have an overlap there.
Right. They filmed it in New York, I think, and then they re-recorded all the music in L.A. with the orchestra because they didn't like the sound of the recording. So I'll never forget, Daryl Anger transcribed Stefan's solo because David wanted to make sure that his fingers really synchronized with what he was playing on film. And Stefan was cursing this written out stuff, even though he had played it. He was like,
of course, yeah.
What is this shit? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And he had to learn his own solo for the film.
Stefan was a very good reader.
He was.
And he could read really well, but he didn't like it. He didn't like to read.
Right.
I played on some of those records with Stefan and Yehudi Menuhin.
Oh, okay.
And of course, Yehudi Menuhin's parts were all written out, and Stefan had some of his parts that were. It was pretty loose. It was a guy called Max Harris that did all the arrangements.
He had figured out how to negotiate that, give Stefan some more freedom.
He wrote every single note for Yehudi Menuhin, but for Stefan, he gave loads of space because Max came from a jazz background too. But then we made an album called Top Hat with Stefan and Yehudi Menuhin, and Nelson Riddle was the arranger.
Oh.
And so I was so excited. Wow, gonna meet Nelson Riddle
with full strings and stuff.
Yeah, the full deal. And then I was so nervous because I'm not a good reader. I've never been a good reader, and fortunately, there was nothing there that was too difficult. But
smart guy. He knew what skills different people had and used them.
But I could,
best they do.
Well, the interesting thing was I remember there was a single line guitar thing in there that I had to play, and when it came to it, I kind of looked at it and when I came to it, I tried to memorize it and I'd completely forgotten it, and I suddenly got double vision and everything. So I just played something, and at the end of the tune, I thought he's going to make us do that again, and I'm going to be made a fool in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And Nelson Riddle, he finished. He said, "Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good." And he looked over me with a real kind of twinkle in his eye. He said, "I liked what you did there."
Okay.
It's like, I know you can't read music, but it's okay. It was kind of like what I had in mind.
Very cool.
Then because he also wrote. I'm a huge Nelson Riddle fan, but he wrote for Stefan like he wrote for Menuhin, so everything was written out, and Stefan started getting really quite annoyed because he couldn't.
Sure. No,
but I think on the second day, Stefan spoke with him and said, "Look, this bit's here. Let me just do my thing."
Right.
And the first track he did it, then Nelson Riddle realized, I can't write out.
Don't put this guy in a box.
That he's going to do, because he's going to come up with something that is pure Stefan Grappelli. It's pure gold.
You know the Nashville phrase, don't you? When the producer asks him if he can read music, the answer is, well, not enough to hurt my playing any.
I always tell people I can read music and I can play the guitar, but not both at the same time.
Okay, that's good.
Well, we have some friends that are joining us from all over the world.
Great.
I don't really
Nice.
want to interrupt your conversation.
Thanks for
back and
letting us
forth.
babble,
No,
Patricia.
please. It's fun. I'm really enjoying it, and I have nothing to add to this
Oh, you
conversation.
do.
But
You
listen,
got us together.
I did. That was my job. But interestingly, we normally have these live events at 4:30 in the afternoon. But because you're both in Europe, well, Martin is in Scotland, and right now Mike is in Germany because he lives in both places. And it turns out that we got a lot of folks from all around the world that were
nice.
able to join us because it's not in the
cool.
middle of the night.
Oh, that's good.
I wanted to just allow some of them to say hello because they've been typing in the comments box. So would it be okay with you if we maybe just let some of them say hello?
Love to say hi.
Yes. So Drew is a student, and I think he's sort of representing a lot of other students from Mike Marshall's course at ArtistWorks. So he wanted to say hello.
Hello, Drew.
And we know this guy. He's in the other room.
David.
Never heard of him. Never heard of
Fearless
him.
leader.
Hey,
He
David.
started this whole thing.
He did, and now he's got his own school, which is fantastic.
He's got the Beginner's Guide to Acoustic Guitar. It was made specifically for adult learners. And then Brian Caples is saying hello from Long Island.
Hi, Brian.
Or from Long Island. And then Miles,
my good friend Miles.
One of your students?
Yeah, Miles holding one of my guitars, and that photograph was taken in Scotland at one of my guitar retreats, which I had in California, New York, Italy, and Scotland. And Miles is something of a veteran because I think Miles has been on all but maybe 2 or something.
Oh, wow.
He'd be able to correct me on that, but also we've become really good friends. And the great thing about, I got to tell you about Miles. I know I can't embarrass him because it's impossible to embarrass Miles. He's he's a solid guy. But over the time I've known Miles became a student on ArtistWorks, and one of the things that I'm sure you feel the same as well, Mike, is that when you have students and you just watch and listen to them grow and grow, sometimes you're giving advice and you're thinking, well, I hope I'm giving the right advice. I hope I'm explaining this okay. But then the proof is when somebody their playing just kind of grows and grows and grows. And Miles actually put something on his Facebook page the other day, playing, and he played Misty, and it was absolutely beautiful.
All right. I've got a few
Miles
of those too.
He's my success story.
Your poster child.
You've got a lot of them. You both have a lot of success stories. Don't minimize your influence and the way you've taught the world. So
someday I'd love to put together a sample of like the students' videos, where you see before and after, 10 quick little snips and say, see what we can do for you here.
Well, I always tell my students, the ones that have been with me for a while and have sent in quite a lot of video submissions, sometimes I have to remind them because I can tell they're improving. When they're doing it every day themselves, they don't hear it. And I just say, go back to that first video submission you did and have a listen to that and listen to them and then listen to what you've just played now. You'll see.
Well, I'm sure we feel the same way.
Yes.
Every day we pick up the instrument, there's something else we want to be able to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Always. Giuseppe
is joining us from Italy.
Viareggio. Ciao, Giuseppe. Welcome. Benvenuto.
Evelyn
from Guatemala.
Wow.
Which is nice.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Yes, and then Bill Tino is from Spokane, Washington.
Oh,
and he's taking Martin's course. Do you know him?
Yeah, nice to see you, Bill.
All right.
Spokane. I love it in Spokane. Oh, I know this gentleman here, Michael Nagasaka. He's a good friend.
Good. There's a few more. So happy these people can join us.
Mexico City. Wow, we are all over the world here. Hope everybody's
here's
healthy.
From Tasmania.
Oh, yeah,
hey, somebody from Tassie.
You know this lady? She's a bluegrass mandolin player, but she was a bassoonist in the Tasmanian Orchestra for 30 years.
Wow.
She went from bassoon to mandolin.
I played
quite a leap.
I played in Hobart a few times. I know there's a music college there as well, but I played at the theatre. I think it's called the Theatre Royal. And it's really weird because the town that I lived for about 30 years on the west coast of Scotland, has a little theatre in it called the Gaiety Theatre.
Oh.
And I walked into that theatre there in Tasmania, the other side of the world, and it's exactly the same. Built in 1910. It was the same architect.
Way.
Sent the plans
Wild.
over. And it was one of the weirdest experiences of my life. Suddenly I'd been transported back.
Yeah. Wow, Prague. Okay.
Isn't that
yeah.
cool?
Is this
And
a
then-
guitarist or a mandolinist? We
He
don't-
doesn't say. Richard from Prague, feel free to tell us what instrument you play. And
Prague,
then this
a
is a
beautiful
little more
city.
on Ruben.
The
The
man who
man-
plays outside is
That's you. That's you. You do. that.
yeah.
Ah.
When this COVID thing happened and we all had to go into quarantine, I had a plan. I live in a little, very small community, a few houses, and I just said to my neighbors, "Look, 6 o'clock, just come sit outside your house. We all live far away enough from each other that we're not too close. Just come out with a bottle of wine, sit down, and I'll play the guitar for you." And I did it. I did it every Saturday for a while. And my
I love
neighbor across the
seeing.
road, he played the bagpipes.
All right.
But we forgive him.
Oh, geez.
Forgave him. Oh my God.
I'm gonna take
And
that.
then
Something like that.
Another neighbor of mine, I didn't even know, played the piano, and he was very shy about it, and he couldn't bring his piano out. So I lent him an electric piano I had here in the studio,
Okay.
and he got out and played, and he was so nervous. And then he asked me a few questions. I got talking to him about performing, and by the third week, he was the most confident performer
Oh,
I've
wow.
ever seen. He was just out there playing,
every
and
week.
just give someone the opportunity and just say, "Hey, don't worry, it's gonna be really good." I just gave him a few tips
Yeah.
about
It
performing.
was nice of you, Martin. You're really,
No, it's
you're
just-
really reaching out to people.
It's just lovely to see. Lovely to see
yeah,
somebody.
especially during the pandemic. We just have a couple
Yeah.
more people to say hello to. So Gianluca, and then Steve.
Rankin?
Steve.
Oh yeah, Sicily. He was one of my students down there. He lives
There
in
you
LA.
go.
He's actually a quite well-known actor in Burbank.
Oh, cool.
Very funny man and great mandolin.
Susan is on.
Susan.
Maybe you know her, Mike. She's on quite a few courses.
You know her.
She's a great musician and loves learning. She plays many instruments. Oh my
All
goodness!
right. All right.
And I thought this was interesting. Indonesia. I don't think anyone has ever joined us from
All
Indonesia.
right.
So
Ah, nice
thank
to
you
see
for
you.
joining us. Yeah,
I've never been to Indonesia.
Hello.
It's a
I
place I'd
haven't
love to
either.
go.
And Jerry. was
Jerry!
wondering-
He was our student that
Jerry's-
won the trip to California.
Yeah, Jerry has actually been to ArtistWorks because he was a winner of one of our big getaways. And so we
Right.
flew him and a couple of other people to ArtistWorks to spend a day in the studio with a couple of our artists, get some one-on-one. And we always like hearing from Jerry.
Yeah, he's doing great too. He's another one.
Yeah, he is. And
All
so
right.
just a couple more
All
here.
right.
There's Klaus from Belgium, and he was. I
Oh,
put that up.
Toots did, he says Toots did pass
Yeah.
away.
In 2016, where have I been?
Yeah. Oh man, I thought I had heard that.
All right, so
Kim.
there are so many people saying hello here that we probably can't
Hello,
get through
Kim.
all of these. But
Hi, Kim.
so what I was thinking was maybe it's a good time since we've been chatting a little bit, which is fantastic. I'm happy to have you guys reminiscing. Would you like to maybe try to play a little call and response music for everybody? That always is very well received.
Oh, we had talked about that.
Yeah, what could we do?
Obviously, we can't
Thoughts?
play together, so
No.
I hope everybody's clear on that.
Yeah, it's not possible because of the latency and
By
one
the
person's
time my
playing-
sound goes up to a satellite and comes back down, Martin's going to hear it late. And
Yeah.
he'll think he's dragon, but he's not. He's a dragon.
Well, what would you guys like to play?
Do you know, probably the easiest thing would just to be played some kind of blues, wouldn't it?
That would be cool. Yeah. You could do a rubato thing with it, and I
The
could.
rubato seems to work fairly well.
How
but
about the
you
key of
guys decide.
G?
That's one of my
Is that
favorites.
Very nice. Very nice. That was really
Fun, Martin.
Hey,
Oh,
great, Mike.
I yearn to be in your front yard someday.
Yeah.
What are we going to call that? We got to name it.
Front porch music.
Front porch. Okay,
Jazz in the yard.
front
Yard
porch
bird
blues. Good Lord. So we have a couple of questions, but I did want to just say that we have one person that's joining us, perhaps from Northeast India, and I thought that was
Wow.
pretty cool.
They called him, what's his name?
Yeah.
Rick.
Oh.
Rick is a great student, great mandolist, plays everything. Plays all those dog tunes. He knows more of them than we do. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's been around. He's been at ArtistWorks a while.
Yeah.
I do want to, if it's okay, to show you guys a couple of questions. This first person posted this question before we really even got started. So I want to read this to you in case it's too far away. Greetings from Guatemala City. For Mike, how is his approach towards jazz and swing on the mandolin? And for Martin, what are his preferences on his custom-made guitars, like wood choices, arch top versus flat top? So, Mike, do you want to go first on
my
that, Mike?
approach to jazz and swing? Well, my approach was to learn some of those tunes, to learn those melodies. I think with any style of music, that's what it's really about. Whether you're interested in bluegrass, you learn the bluegrass repertoire. And I remember when I first moved to California and met David Grisman and all those guys, and learning a couple of Charlie Parker heads, and some of the classic Shango Reinhardt tunes, just learning those melodies, because within the melodies is the sort of rhythmic and harmonic language that you'll use to improvise with. People talk about, well, you got to learn your scales, and you got to learn arpeggios and all this. But really, it's within the melody themselves. We were playing around with the tune like Swing 42 earlier. Those kind of rhythmic syncopations, with all that cross rhythm syncopated things. Those aren't the kind of rhythms you'd have in a bluegrass tune. And so to learn those melodies is where the language and the accent and the nuance is living, and all the turns of chromaticism that exists in jazz is very different than usual folk music that most of us mandolin players start with. But of course, you do have to know the harmony. If you see a C sharp minor 7th chord, at some point you have to figure out where that is.
Yeah.
So there was also a bit of math and a bit of study that went into it, figuring out how to move chords around chromatically so that you could find the oddball things that are not so common in folk music.
Mike, how about switching between mandolin and guitar? How does one make that transition?
Well, that's an interesting one. I always the mandolin is so logical because it's tuned symmetrically. It's tuned in fifths, E, A, D, G. Guitar is tuned in fourths, except for that dastardly B string, right? I like to say on the mandolin, you don't need to know what string you're on.
Okay.
Because if you're looking for a certain interval, it's going to be always in the same place. An octave is going to be right there. A fifth is going to be right across. With the guitar, it's a little more complicated, right, Martin, in that regard?
Yeah, it's not logical. And
right.
Yeah.
So,
like most guitar players, actually.
well, as a lead instrument, of course, this is a silly thing to say because there's been some of the greatest lead playing on guitar of any instrument, but guitar is almost set up for that F movable bar chord, right? I mean, that's the tuning is really geared for chord playing in a certain respect. And but you have the range on guitar, which sometimes I'm envious of when I'm playing a mandolin. I do have a 10-string mandolin, which gives me an extra low C string.
Yeah, we can't see your mandolin very. I think maybe it's getting very dark there. But
Yeah, on that time, I can turn some lights on.
Yeah, what are you playing there? And then we want to talk about Martin's guitar too. What are you?
This is my beautiful Northfield Series 4 mandolin that the folks up in Marshall, Michigan, of all places.
Very nice. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Adrian Begale and all his team of brilliant craftsmen. Kosuke, a Japanese fellow who worked with him for many years. They've been taking what was, it's basically like a Gibson mandolin in every, when you look at it. But if you look under the hood, they're doing some really creative things with wood choices and bracing patterns.
Beautiful.
And I just love working with them because they're building great instruments and not for insane prices.
Well, they're good people too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I like working with a company where there's really good people to deal with too.
Yeah, amazing personalities.
So, Mike, can I ask you to maybe turn a light on in your room?
Yeah.
And let's talk to Martin about his guitar.
You got it.
And all kinds of guitars, Martin. Someone asked about woods and things like that. But what are you playing these days?
Well, I've always really played archtop guitars, which I mean, this has got slightly different here, but this guitar here, this is an archtop guitar, which a lot of people know about, which are really they're based on violin design. And as far as I know, so many of the great American luthiers, archtop makers, if you look at the lineage, were of Italian descent. D'Acquisto, D'Angelico, now Benedetto, and really a lot of Italian luthiers went to America, and they started making guitars but using the violin technology, in the same way as making a violin or a cello or a viola. And of course, Orville Gibson was experimenting with that. So it's basically a violin design. That's the word I was trying to think of. It's basically like a violin design. If you look inside, it's got the same, or the things inside there. And I've always liked playing an archtop because I like the fact that it doesn't have a huge amount of sustain, and it doesn't have a real big bottom end to it like a flat top will have, but it's a lot thicker on the top strings. And the best wood the best wood to use for an archtop, the archtop itself, which is carved out of spruce seems to be the best. I have actually one up here made of cedar, which is very unusual. But it's got a very, very bright sound. But yeah, spruce seems to be the thing. I don't know an awful lot about it, even though I was involved with the design of this guitar. The other thing is, because I play fingerstyle as well as playing with a pick, is that I had the neck a little bit wider than most guitars, most archtop. Excuse me, I've got a drink of water. Most archtop guitars, it is water, don't worry. And a lot of jazz players have started to play more fingerstyle as well. I've noticed that in recent years. I mean, a big influence for me, well, two real big influences. First of all, was hearing Joe Pass play, George Van Epps. My own guitar mentor was a gentleman called Ike Isaacs, who was a wonderful, wonderful guitar player. And they played jazz guitar fingerstyle. And I really liked the idea of that. And I was fascinated about playing solo. So I kind of flipped between the two. Also, one thing that I don't play with a real kind of traditional kind of electric jazz guitar sound, that big fat kind of plummy kind of sound, which I like, but I prefer a sound that is rings out just a little bit more. It's still quite thick on the top strings, but it just has it's not quite so middly, the middle frequencies. So when I work with,
I'm sorry, I just had a question on the wider neck. Why you said I like a wider neck, but you didn't really say why.
Oh, okay. Well, it's actually mostly to do with the right hand than the left hand, because if you have a very narrow neck, strings are closer together, which can be okay with the left hand, but then the right hand, when you're playing fingerstyle, they're just too close. It's very difficult to play, so it pans out a little bit. And also, when you're playing a lot of chordal things rather than single line, you need that a bit more space as well. So it's just very, very, very small things that.
And where do you keep your pick, Martin? When you're not playing with the pick, you hide it in there, huh?
That's so cool.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So I can go.
I love it. Nice. Very slick. Beautiful.
So yeah, it goes in and out.
That's a nice demonstration.
Just slip it in, slip it out. Wow.
That way. It's a bit like I saw these guys that could do tricks with coins. You ever seen those guys?
Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
Some of those old movies, gangster movies.
That's
they used to be standing on a street corner doing, with a coin, with a quarter.
I didn't know you did that. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, you can't really see it a lot of the time, because a lot of people ask me that question. Where did the pick go? Did you throw it away, or did you put it in? I mean, Joe Pass used to.
Oh, he would do that. Okay.
I used to work with Emily Remler quite often, and she used to do that as well.
Okay.
And when I remember doing that once when I was a kid, and it got my brother said something, and I breathed in, and the pick went down, and it got stuck in the back of my throat.
Oh my God.
Maybe that's why I'm coughing today. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I was playing once at the Chet Atkins convention in Nashville, and I was in the lobby, and a lot of guitar players there, and there's a guy, I'll think of his name, Fred Kelly, and he makes thumb picks.
Okay.
And he said to me, "Have you ever played with a thumb pick?" And I said, I'd tried one once. I said, but I just couldn't keep it. I just kept falling off all the time. He said, well, try one of mine. He said, right. And he gave this pick to me. He said, try it, play something. So I played it. It went ping, and it pinged to the other side, the other end of the foyer.
Oh,
and
God.
I spent the whole weekend looking for it, and then speaking I said, could you speak to if you find a thumb pick?
Jesus.
So
It's mine.
all I know is that. So that was the last time I used a thumb
Last
pick.
of a thumb pick.
Yeah, it just flew away, and I've never.
But
seen
this
it
was
since.
this was something you developed. You never saw anybody do this before, because I certainly
No.
I've seen a lot
I
of
just
guitar.
developed it, and well, see,
Very
I started out playing with a pick for the first
Sure.
15 years, and then I never played fingerstyle. But when I met you, I'd only really got fairly recently into playing fingerstyle.
Yeah, I think
Back in the late 70s, just into that.
Developing a solo show and
when I was
realizing
getting
you
into
needed
more playing solo.
something. Yeah.
So I never abandoned the pick completely. So it's still there. Oh yeah, that's another thing I did when I started to play fingerstyle. I still used to keep the pick like this, and I never put it down. So I used to play with the pick in there anyway. So
Sure.
it just became a natural thing. And if you want to practice how to do that, just walk around with a pick all day long, just going like that. That's all you need to do. It's like
Opening
everything.
doors. Yeah.
That's it. Just
put that
hold
close.
a pick.
Put it closer to the camera. What are you doing? You're tossing it back and forth.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Get it closer. So,
and I'm going to take this
If
off.
you sign up to ArtistWorks, you get a close-up multi-camera on this. It's between the first and
I see.
second.
I'm putting it there, but it's more.
Oh, it's
So this finger is still.
God.
It's kind of just sitting there.
Oh, how crazy.
It doesn't mean I haven't dropped it many times.
You're still able to use the second finger, huh?
Yeah.
To pluck with.
That's very cool. I've never seen that
cool.
one. You know, how many guitar teachers do we have? 10 or 11 that
I've-
have come through, and I've never seen anybody do that before. That's
Actually,
very cool.
I've never actually seen another guitar player do that. I'm sure there must be, but you know, when you think of somebody like Einstein or Leonardo da Vinci,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they say, what were their great achievements in life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all these incredible things that they did. And me, what they did, he learned
There's a-
he could hold a pick. That was my contribution to the
There you
world.
go.
There's a new page in the Book of Genius, right? It's pretty
okay.
good. So we have a couple of comments here and questions, and then I want to have Mike play a little bit, or you guys can play together. This was a gentleman that was from Northeast India, and
Guthrie
he said
Trapp.
he said he couldn't go abroad to pursue music. Thanks to ArtistWorks, I was able to improve exponentially. I signed up for Guthrie Trapp, Dave Stryker, and of course Martin Taylor. My sincere gratitude.
Oh,
I
that's
thut that was
sweet.
a nice thing.
Very
Yeah,
to
well,
put
thank
there.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
what it's an amazing thing. You know, Mike, I mean, you would never have believed you'd be able to teach so many people.
Well,
It's
and when I
incredible.
think about what I had to do to get access to the things that I wanted, you know, as a young person, especially living in Florida in the 60s and early 70s, waiting for 6 weeks for an LP to arrive and then transcribing it by slowing it down to half speed and all these things we did to learn about music. And to have something like ArtistWorks available to me, oh my God, I would have been in heaven. I am in heaven, but
Well, you both also do the retreats.
that's
we
right.
we should mention that. So, Martin, I think James Taylor, your son helped you start getting these retreats together. But now Mike does them sometimes too.
That's
Talk
right.
a little bit about that.
Well, we're synchronized to a certain degree with our dear friend Donna Wapner, and Pepino, who co-organized these things with us. And it's just remarkable to go to a place like Sicily with 20 or 30 students and hang out there. They've organized these things so nicely with great accommodations and of course amazing food, and it's been just mind-blowing. We bring our family down, and
That's nice.
the girls go swimming all day while we hang out with folks and talk mandolin. That's pretty special.
The thing about them is that they're just an experience, you know, because it's not all about, obviously it's about playing guitar and learning new things, developing as players, getting to meet other guitar players, but also just to go somewhere really nice and hang out and bring your partner with you. We always go to nice places with food's good, and you know, and it's just, you know, I'm sure you've had the same thing too, Mike. I've had people say at the end of the weekend, they just say, you know, this has been life-changing experience.
Wow.
And because to get an opportunity like that is quite something.
Because the hangs they're much more, like you said, than just playing the guitar. I think just to have these dinners together and chat music, you know, is as cool an experience for many folks.
Yeah. It's not a classroom atmosphere, you know, it's you know, we get down to some work and there's things to do, but it's not a kind of a dry kind of atmosphere or anything. It's, you know, everyone's having fun. And the same concept as really as ArtistWorks is that the players all learn from each other too.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
Because I always say that to my students on ArtistWorks, because sometimes they'll play something and I'll give some advice and I'll say, you know, be careful not to do such and such a thing, and I might give an example of how not to do something, and then I have to quickly say, no, sorry, you didn't do that. I'm just saying that for everybody else, just to be. I'm just pointing out some pitfalls that can happen.
What I like at ArtistWorks are those shout outs where somebody will ask a question to me in the shout outs, and one of the other students will answer it before I even have a chance to get to it.
It's a great community. It really is.
In that
it's
regard.
Good. And I'm always happy to see folks show up, like Colin.
Hey,
Colin's
been around a while. And
Colin's been with me right from the very beginning.
I know
10 years ago.
And Jerry Bradley and Miles and all of that. So I hate to interrupt this conversation, to be honest with you. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I always have fun on these events, but this one is particularly entertaining for me.
We're just getting started, too.
I know, but
Martin.
I have an idea, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. But when we started this event today, we talked about how you guys are multi-instrument players, and you also play multiple genres. So I wondered if Martin could play the mandolin and Mike could play the guitar.
After Mike.
And let's do a little call response. Come on, you guys can do it.
My guitar is down in the studio right now.
Well, we'll have
Well,
Martin
I'm not
pick
playing
up
mandolin
his
duet with you.
I could leave the room.
Okay,
It'd be like going into the ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's how I feel, the same.
Go, Mike, get your guitar.
I already had my experience having to play with Stefan after watching you play with him for about 12 gigs.
You just happen to have a mandolin there.
And now you're going to embarrass me.
I have instruments everywhere to hand here.
You do.
YouTube. Give me
Mike,
1 second.
Get your guitar. Okay. Now, what is this that you're... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
This guitar, this mandolin, this is a Gibson A-style mandolin. This one's 1918.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm really not a mandolin player. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be modest. It's just something I like to mess around on. And it was actually Mike and David Grisman that got me into this on that tour we did when we were all on the bus together. And I started messing around.
Cool. It's beautiful. Yeah, that works. I would say you're holding your own there, Martin.
Well, I discovered there was a little pub around the corner from where I used to live here in Scotland when I lived on the west coast of Scotland, and they used to have a lot of folk music sessions. And I knew the guy that had the pub, and he said, "Come and have a play." And I didn't want to go and get the guitar; they'd want me to play jazz things, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, right.
So I used to go take the mandolin with me and just join in. And I love the whole thing that the folk musicians do in Scotland and in Ireland and in England, England and Wales, of course. In the British Isles, where you just go into a pub and they sit around a table and everyone has a beer and somebody starts off and everyone joins in. Yeah. And if you kind of know the tune but you don't know it very well, you just kind of play a little quietly. And I found that I could actually fake quite well on the mandolin.
Well, that didn't sound like a fake at all. All right, so you guys are going to have to figure out what you're going to play here. I know I'm throwing caution to the wind.
Well, again, we're not going to play together.
Mike, could you tune this mandolin up for me?
Yeah, sure. Here, give this one a go.
I used to work quite often with Barney Kessel, and he had a lot of very funny stories. And he said to me, one of his favorite stories, he used to say, if I'm ever a condemned man and I'm waiting to meet a firing squad and they say, "What is your last wish?" I'll say, "Let me tune up my 12-string guitar and I'll be right with you."
There you go.
I'd say, "Let me tune up my mandolin and I'll be with you."
That's right. It's a bear, man.
Mandolin players, they spend half the time tuning up, half the other half out of tune. Is that right?
Out of tune. That's Jethro Burns. That's right. That's a quote.
I love Jethro Burns.
Oh, the best.
Figured this one out. I'm going to leave you to it.
What do you want us to do? You know we can't play together.
No, just do a call and response.
I'm not a mandolin player. Yeah, but
Yes, you are, Mike.
he plays better guitar than I play mandolin.
I'm going to give you a countdown, and you're
You
going to
play
figure out.
you play some chords, or you play melody mostly?
I'm better on just playing melody, actually.
Just playing the notes.
Yeah.
You'll do it.
Somewhere up there. That's lovely.
All right. It's a beautiful Gibson you have there. Oh, sweet.
I have another one up there that's older than this.
That's a nice tremolo for a guitar player. That's quite a nice tremolo.
Is it? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let's see the other one. Do you have another one, Martin?
Yeah,
Do you have
I've got
another
one. I've got one that's older than this.
We don't
Look
care if
behind
we're
me.
going- I know
There's a
you've got
couple.
lot.
There's a
Yeah,
couple
I
hiding
know.
up there.
I know. You
That's
play guitar.
Katarina's.
Yeah, you play guitar beautifully, Mike, though. I remember, I think I actually heard you on guitar
Oh,
first
let me see if I can find it.
because you were.
Yeah,
Let me
that was
tune
my
up
first
mandolin, I'll
instrument.
be right with you. There you go.
You must know
That's
that
lovely.
one. What was it? She Begged She More.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah,
From
that is.
Yeah.
Turo O'Carolyn tune.
This is
Now,
another
what do you
old
have
one.
there?
Let me
That's
see
also
that.
Gibson.
Yeah, it's. I believe it's 1908 or something.
That's
like
one
that.
of the original
Wow.
Orville
Yeah,
Gibsons.
it's got the look, the
with
old
his
headstock
sticker
on
in it. Oh yeah, no.
I got this from our
That's-
friend Dexter in
And Carmel.
Carmel, California. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And what's around the sound hole there? Is that the pick guard? Is there? What is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's-
mother
it's
of
like
pearl,
a-
look at
tortoise
that.
shell, inlaid
Well,
tortoise shell.
yeah.
Oh, that's
And
It's
then
a nice little
inside-
instrument.
Inside, it's got the original sticker in the sound hole with his picture, Orville's picture.
Yeah, I just yeah, it's a lovely little inside there. You can't probably see
Let
it.
me
but-
see. Oh yes, right there.
But it's lovely.
Yeah. How about that? Wow.
This is a guitar called a maestro. Japanese, I believe he is. He worked with a luthier in the Bay Area, Samaji, for many years, where he learned his
Wow.
craft. It's got this little sort of armrest thing.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's kind of nice, and it has a vanity sound hole.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Cool.
Is that what they call those?
That's you hear yourself really good.
Yeah.
I got this from a store here in Wuppertal. My friend Oliver Weitze has the New Acoustic Gallery. It's like a museum to Grisman and Tony Rice and Bela
Really?
Fleck and all of us. I mean, the guy's a complete fanatic for all this kind of music that we've all been pursuing. And I actually met him because he went to the Telluride Bluegrass Festival many years, 10 years in a row.
Wow.
He was there. And he used to buy CDs and books out of the back of my car as I was leaving the festival. And then turns out I live in the same town and go
my
hang out there. I was just over there today jamming with him.
Wow.
Sweet
I'll have to
guy.
come. I'll have to come and see you next time I'm in Germany.
You got to come over, man. We'll
Yeah,
take you
I had
to
a few-
Oliver's shop.
I had a few dates actually in Germany this year, but of course they're all postponed till next
There
year. So.
you go. We're just taking 2020 on hold. We're putting it on
Yeah.
lock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's best. We're
'Cause
having
how's it been
surges
for
everywhere.
you? You must be digging kind of being home a little bit, huh?
Well, I left school when I was 15 and
Yeah.
joined a band, and then I was
Right.
really on the road from the age of 16.
There you
So
go.
I'm 64 now, and I think, and I was thinking, everyone said, "Oh, all my friends are either retired or they're planning on retiring. What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd probably slow down a little."
Yeah.
But what's really happened actually is I'm just very busy in here. I do all my ArtistWorks
Yeah.
videos here, and I also write and record music for a TV synchronization company.
Oh.
So I do a little bit of that, which is I've been doing that for quite a number of years. Not in a big kind of way, but just
Sure.
something I really enjoy doing.
Nice.
And then various other things that I do. So my day hasn't really changed.
Right.
My life hasn't changed. I take the dog for a walk. The only thing is I don't stop off at the pub on the way.
And a few less airports, which after 40 years of that shit, you've done your share.
No kidding.
But I am looking forward to playing again. I do actually have some dates in the UK that are still in the diary. Whether they will happen or not, I don't know. We have to take things as they come.
Yeah, we've got some stuff in October that we're hoping will still
me
be
too.
there. Belgium,
but I know people that have been playing in Germany. Germany seems to have opened up, but it seems that everywhere is dealing with it in different ways. Even here, where I live in Scotland, the Scottish government. A lot of these rules aren't part of the UK government. It's the Scottish government.
They
So
have their own.
the Scottish government is more cautious
They're more strict
about it. So and it also arrived here later.
Okay.
So we're actually, I think today is when the beer gardens opened.
Okay.
So
wow. That could
It'll
be
be
fun.
interesting to see how things develop.
I may pay a visit at some point when I take my
Just to
dog
make
for a
sure
walk.
everything's okay, Martin. Just go check it out and make sure everybody's,
Well,
doing what they need to do.
I've already went on and got their app on my phone, so I can pay for it. So.
Found out
Oh,
what-
that's good. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. One thing I was going to say is that, like a lot of people, I'm doing a lot of Zoom calls with friends and family.
Yeah, there's been a lot of
particularly with my family, and I know a lot of people that are doing that. And I say, what do you think of it? I've got older friends who've never really done that kind of thing with Zoom or Skype, and they absolutely love it. And it gets me to think that what you've been doing here at ArtistWorks. I remember when I was first with ArtistWorks 10 years ago, trying to explain to a lot of people what we actually do.
It's so tough.
And it was very, very difficult. Well, how does that work? And also there are some people that thought that maybe in some way doing things virtually was in some way a kind of inferior experience, which it most certainly isn't. And I think learning virtually is such an amazing way to do it, because if I never went to anybody for guitar lessons. I just kind of picked things up as I went along. But I knew, I've spoken to people who used to have lessons for years when they were kids, and they said they go away and they'd forget a lot of the things that were said, and they couldn't really focus on things. Now with this, you can focus on the tiniest little thing. And
you can rewind it as many times.
You can rewind,
What was he talking about?
You can work on one little thing at a time.
Yeah. And you're right that just being nervous, being in a lesson with a teacher, you're nervous, and so you don't really hear in the same way. I mean, of course, you can record it, but there's something about this experience that I think people take the stuff in the right in the right tempo for them personally.
Well, you guys both have recorded pretty much everything as well, and that means that there are no gaps. And I think that that has been very valuable to so many people, that almost no matter what level of player they are, they can go find a spot where they can dwell a while and improve their skills because of what you've recorded. And then, of course, they have the ability to submit a video to you, and you respond with the video. And that's been, I think that makes our experience very different than anybody else's. And I I believe also more meaningful because you get this feedback from a master musician.
The one I like is
Big
when
difference.
somebody says, "Damn, this is the 10th time I tried to record this tune for you."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, great, because that means that you've watched yourself play and you've already done
Watching
some
and
of the
listening.
work, you know,
Yeah,
that I would have
exactly.
told you to do over the
Yeah.
course of 10 times visiting me.
No, do you know what one of the things that I really like is when somebody will come back to me and they say, I don't know whether I've got better, but everyone's telling me I sound better.
Okay, there you go.
And that's what I
That
really like.
works.
Yeah.
Shut
and
up.
I
You
think-
did then.
So that, I said, well, it's working then, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well,
cool.
so we probably should wrap up a little bit here. I know that I made you switch instruments. Thank you for indulging me. I thought that was kind of fun. But would you like to play
I just-
something musical on the way out?
We had
Well, I was
talked
just about to get my
Swing 42.
bagpipes, actually.
Yeah. I've got a banjo here.
Oh my
Yeah, I got a
gosh.
banjo too.
That doesn't surprise me.
I actually don't have a banjo. I'm lying.
Would you
But
guys
I'm-
like to
I'm
just
gonna
play a
get
little
one.
something before we leave? It would be great to hear you play again.
We had talked about that Swing 42 thing, Martin. What do you think?
I think that's a good
Oh,
idea.
I think he took his headphones off. You do have a banjo.
Oh, my
Dear God, look at this man. Call
This
the
is
music
gonna work.
police.
Okay, this is gonna work.
Where's Tony Chushka when we need him?
We don't
Well,
need him. We have Martin Taylor. Sorry,
The
Tony.
Well,
only
this
thing
is a 4-string.
It's a tenor banjo.
Did you tune it like a guitar then? Sort of.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
almost like a musical instrument.
Fantastic.
I did actually in my very early days. I played in Dixieland bands
You did.
with my because my dad was a Dixieland,
Ring, ring.
and I remember it was just. That was my level of banjo playing, and I never really got any better than that. So
That's
I won't
perfect.
play you any more on the banjo.
That's what it's for, man. That sounds perfect.
I think we should get you guys together with Howard Levy because I think he plays 5 or 6 or 7 instruments. He plays a lot of them,
he's a
and
monster
he plays the
musician.
harmonica and the piano at the same time.
Oh
But
yeah, that's
He's such an extraordinary musician.
he really is.
Incredible.
I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in his head, but I'd love to see I'd love to see a photograph of it.
Wouldn't you love to just watch that video, Martin, just to see what's going on in that man's
That's
head?
some
Oh my
What
God.
that's
is
some
going on in the
spaghetti
man's
up
head? It's
there,
just
man.
incredible, just incredible. He's a genius.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is.
No,
Well,
he's
you guys
brilliant.
are too. And I before we close here with a little bit of music, I want to thank you both for being the tremendous musicians that you are, and
Well.
you teach as masterfully as you play. And I really appreciate that because, being on the ArtistWorks online faculty is not necessarily an easy thing to get chosen for, and the criteria has to be that you not only are a virtuoso, but that you can teach just as well. And you both have been very successful, and I don't mean that from a financial standpoint, but you've been teaching the world music with us, and
Thank you,
I know you
Patricia.
both well enough
Yeah,
that
thank you.
this is an important. Thank you.
Well,
It's important to me, and I know
Yeah.
that it's an important part of your life too. I'm
Yeah.
very
Well,
thankful that you're with us.
Well, thank you to you and David for having faith in me, because I didn't know whether I could do this or not when we started doing this. It wasn't until students were coming back and saying, "Hey, I think this sounds better." I thought, "Yeah, okay, that seems to be."
Well,
Well,
and thank you
seems
for
to be
having the
working well.
vision to see beyond what was there already, and to have the imagination to
Well, I
think
mean-
up and to function as well as it does.
Well, it's David's idea. It's his concept
Yeah.
because he wanted to learn to play jazz guitar, and I just sort of made it into a business. But I know, Martin, that you were a little worried about teaching, but I think David kind of needed to do that out of personal desire. He just
Yeah.
needed to know how to do what you're doing. And
Yeah, well, he really helped me. I was nervous about teaching because not only had I never taught before, I'd never actually been taught.
Right.
I'd never actually gone to somebody
Yeah.
for lessons. I know my dad was a musician. I was just around music, and I just picked a guitar up and played and listened to Django Reinhardt records and found little phrases that I could play, and joined it all together along the way. So I thank David and you for having that trust in me. I'm glad it worked out well. It certainly has, and I just absolutely love it. I love
Great
teaching.
thing.
Every teacher has a slightly different way of making a point and demonstrating a skill. Mike does it differently than you do, than Daryl does, than Brian Sutton and Paul Gilbert. Everybody does it a little bit different. And you have what inside of you, you know how you do it, but that's not how you teach. You have to teach so that anybody can learn to do what you do. So if you just get in front of a camera and say, this is how I do it, most people aren't going to be able to do it. But if you tell them, this is how you can do it, this is how you build, these are the steps that
This
you
is the
take,
next step you need.
these are the skills that you need to be able to get to this point a little bit further up the hill. And that was sort of David's, I'm going to call it a cognition, but he just knew that you needed those stepping stones, and no matter how experienced someone was at teaching, we could make them a better teacher by making sure there were no gaps. And you guys have just done a great job. So anyway.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned is really that sometimes you need to teach the same thing, the same concept. You need to know different ways of teaching it.
That's very true.
So because it will click with one person, another player would just go, what are you talking about? They don't get it. So I like to try and I need to kind of get into my students' minds a little bit.
What's cool about it? We get to see them.
Yeah.
And we get to,
very cool.
We're sort of forced as teachers to deal with that issue.
I'll teach the same thing one way to one student and a different way to another.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what it's for. That's exactly what video exchange is for. You can have all the main points in the curriculum or the video lessons, but someone brings a unique problem or a unique bad habit to you, and you go, oh, in order for them to get this,
look at this.
We got to look at this and unpack it. And you guys do a great job, and thank you for being on faculty, so to speak.
You betcha.
I would love to hear you guys play. You were talking about Swing 42 and on your own instruments.
Yeah, obviously not jamming. Sorry.
No. Is that what you would like to do?
Yeah, he's already in there. Nice, man.
Your turn.
All right, so I had come up with this crazy idea to have a rhythm track, which I have, of that very tune, and this was kind of. We'll see if it works. Hopefully, you can hear the rhythm track. I'm just going to go for it here and play it. Reminds me of how Stefan used to kick our butts every night. Something like
Thank you,
that.
Mike. Yeah,
Anyway,
something like that.
Took
That
me
was
back
pretty
to
awesome.
the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, 1979.
1979. I was flying. That was the nearest to flying that I ever experienced. No question about
Very
it.
special time.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today, Mike and Martin. I really appreciate it. And everybody that joined us from around the world, really wonderful to have you with us. And I hope that you will join us again. Let me think now. On the 9th at 4:30 p.m. I'll be joined by Brian Sutton and Alex Hargreaves.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's going to be a really fun live
Wow,
event.
sweet.
And I encourage you all to come back and join us. And we are ArtistWorks, and these are two of our master musicians, Martin Taylor and Mike Marshall, and they teach online at artistworks.com, and we'd be very happy to welcome you to ArtistWorks and hope that we see you online soon. Martin, Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you,
joining us
Thank you
Patricia.
very
today.
much.
Good to
Thank
see
you,
you,
Patricia.
Martin. Stay
Good to
healthy.
see you, Mike.
Stay
Good to see
safe,
you.
both of
See you
you.
soon.
Cheers.